Hey man, how you going?
Hey Ken.
You well?
I'm good.
Good day for a day.
Oh,
Sunny day.
lovely day. Yeah,
It's good.
I've been out and about, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, so it's just like out and about doing my other job. So, So this is me and Stables.
It's a cool setup.
Yeah, we're getting there. We only got it going last week.
Yeah.
Usually, last week we had wheels in.
Yeah. Saw Finchy as well.
Yeah. And so, the idea is, as we chat, it's more, I want to be more about mates, just talking rugby. And that's what I want to do, just relax, just chat. Like I know you with Dunedin.
Yeah.
And a bit about the women's rugby. And I was sitting there, was it yesterday whenever I rang you, or got a hold of you, I was like, who do we know? Because everyone else has bailed on me. So it's like, and...
It was like, I don't know anyone in women's rugby.
No.
Oh, no, Cam's worked in women's rugby for a couple of years, come on.
Yeah. So, we probably might just talk about you, a wee bit about the results. Last week I had it scripted, and Staples says, I forgot one comment, and it was too scripted.
Yeah, you don't want to be scripted, no.
Yeah,
It didn't have the
flow.
podcast
vibe.
Yeah.
It was more like an interview.
Yeah.
And it was my first real go at it.
Yeah.
So it's like, generally when we just chat, like, I think that first one when me and you just sat and chatted, like, because we just didn't know.
But it's easy to fill in time that way.
Yeah, and you just come up with.
And there's so much going on at the moment, like.
Yeah.
I think I was just looking at our draws for the week. We've got 2 teams playing on Friday, a team on Thursday, because you've got baseline on the same day. And then next week's got Hyde Street, so the Colts programs are starting off to a nightmare across most clubs.
Yeah.
I think there's about 10 under 20s boys that aren't playing this week because they've all been told they're not allowed to play because of minutes from Highlanders 20s.
Oh, all right.
So it's going to be.
I hope you turn
It
that.
disrupts the whole...
Have you turned that on?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, we're recording. So you get yourself there.
Jeez, stitch up. We're recording. Like I know what I was about to say next.
Yeah, because he'll set his mics and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I said to him when we, I didn't get another fucking stool.
No, that's right.
And
I
I
adjust
said,
the mic to wherever you want to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Oh,
It
no.
just needs to be reasonably close.
Yeah.
that's
To be able to see...
I see myself. Jeez, I don't like I said it was South Stables.
I can turn that off. It's just
No.
the framing.
Yeah. Making sure
Yeah.
it's all for shame.
So,
yeah. No, and then we've got the portable one there, where it's got screens for him. And
Yeah.
he's got double screens, so he's just using that one there. And so yeah.
But no, cover it all off. I think the Prem comp is going to be interesting this week too, because I think I saw in Matt Dureen last night. He reckons Kyker's got 10 debutants this week.
Yeah.
So you've got not much depth there.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I haven't seen our team yet, but we've got 10 out from our Prem space.
Yeah.
It's just a test of depth already.
I don't think anyone's named it publicly except for Otago Union.
Have they named the team already?
Oh, it's on
on the Rugby X, yeah.
Oh,
I don't
So
know.
that'll probably
I don't even know how to use that yet.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the team lists submitted for women's games in round 1.
Oh, cool. They've already put my one in there. That's good.
This is round 1 last week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Guesses as to how accurate that is?
Nah, there's a few plugs in there, I think.
Oh,
Not from me, but from some teams.
Yeah.
Well, just because, again, it's so hard.
Yeah, and that's because for us, or for me, who doesn't even know about women's rugby.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell am I looking at? And
Yeah.
I'm like, I think Zingery were the worst.
Yeah.
And it is across all boards. It's not just like women's rugby. It's also across.
Well, it's all
Colts
great.
rugby,
Yeah,
all
especially
grades.
if you're not involved in the club, you don't know who's actually. Who's who? You don't know who's playing, who's doing what.
You know how last year you said about some of the guys asking why don't you do a team of the week for us?
Yeah. That's the problem. Is the data you got. You're looking at it, you go.
It's exactly the
Look
reason
at all
why.
these gaps and
We tried to do it for round 1.
Who do we play? We played a Lambert Union. So leaving a Lambert Union, you know what I mean? They have 3 gaps in their starting team. Tessa Brown definitely didn't play. There's people in there that just didn't even play.
And also the jersey numbers don't match.
Yeah, so you can't even look at who's who.
So that's one of the reasons we tried to do it for round 1. And I had 2 people working on each game, and it probably equated to about 18 hours work trying to figure out
Who's
who was
who.
who, and we can't do it.
Can't do
But
it.
and again, you can't.
So that's the reason we're not doing players of the
Player of the
team
week.
of the week for the girls at the moment.
It's too hard to, because you can't identify them.
Because we do it based off the data.
Yeah.
The
Right.
men's is hard enough, but it's
Stay by your mic because we'll get lots of echo.
Yeah, right.
Because there I've just bought a whole pile of pads to go at the back there.
Oh,
so we're
soundproofed.
still in progress of making. Oh no, I got busy eating my lunch and then watching golf.
So are we going? Are we just going to go just talk now, or what do you want? How do you want to do it?
Oh, well, we started.
Oh, you're just going to eat all this. You're just going to eat all
doing
this.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So people who know me, AC, and yourself, Cam Burrows from Dunedin.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So you probably just heard us yapping away like a bunch of idiots. So, and this is what it's about, just talking about footy. So that's the cool thing. So, and it's cool to get your insight and what you're doing with your footy, and then having a chat about what's actually going on across all boards. I'm not too worried. Focus this week was on women's rugby because it's the first round of the Prem Ladies, and that's what we wanted to put a shed a light on here at this channel. So what do you do at Dunedin, Cam?
Yeah, so I'm Dunedin Rugby Club chairman there, but also coach the women's space. This is my second or third year doing that.
Yeah.
I've had a team now for 4 years, so helped assistant coach my first year, in the first year of the team, and then coached the last 3 years. So it's been really good fun. Quite enjoy it, but also it's come around pretty quick this season. So second round this weekend, kicked off last weekend with the 3 games across the fields, but. Like all things rugby at the moment, there's lots of administration going on, let alone trying to get girls on the paddock. So it's certainly all go. But I guess once rugby starts, it comes a bit easier because you just focus on the week-to-week preparation a bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. I was club captain for 3 years at Southern, and I was sort of happy to be out of that space. But then you miss it because you miss what's going on in the club. Like you know what's going on. Like we're lucky. Southern's lucky they got Blair and Crawford, so that he does really well. I remembered what you said about the "we" word, and so because I'm trying to be more neutral. And it's a hard thing because I wear my heart on my sleeve. I bleed black and white. I played for Southern and I played for Crescent. So black and white's there. You know what I mean? It just doesn't go away. So, but that's the cool thing. Like being in administration, it was a huge fun, and you'll be enjoying that. It's a bloody nightmare. It's a headache because you have to deal with other people's personalities. And that's really. Yeah, you've got to draw a line somewhere.
Especially even today I've had about 4 phone calls already from different coaches and managers thinking ahead to this week and trying to sort players out. So it is all part of the parcel. But you're right, we're all passionate about our clubs, but I think there's a genuine group of people out there trying to do what's right for the greater good too. And I think we're seeing that now with some of our administrators across. Really working together. A lot more of that collaboration. We know that we can't survive with kind of 15 clubs doing their own thing anymore. We need to start working together more because it's getting harder and harder. And if we just start infighting, then obviously, again, we're just dwindling the competition. And it's been really good to see that in the women's space. We've got Zingaree coming into the Premier space this year and probably haven't really seen too many players move between clubs, which is quite nice. Obviously, in the men's competition, every year there's a few rumours going around about someone jumping ship, for the opportunity, whereas I think in the women's space, everyone's kind of respected each other's patches a little bit. Bit of internal recruitment from outside the region, but not too much poaching from within, which is quite nice to see.
Macca started his own rumour and said he was going to GI, so that was hilarious. So I had to tell him off about that. Because a great result for Zingers. They were 83-10 against the Wahine from up the road there, so great start for those guys.
I watched the game on Sunday when I was doing my preview for this week and scored some really good open tries out there, which was good to see. They've got a really good 10, Sahara Mason, who really guides the game well. They play a lot of rugby off 10, so some really free-flowing rugby, which was good to see. I just saw Simon Wallace was refereeing that, and I think initially there was probably quite a few penalties given out in the game, a lot of issues around tackle height and kind of, first game of the season, a bit of a feel around the rules. But I think once both teams got into their rhythm, there was definitely some good tries scored. And I think for those that are new to the women's space, that's one thing you'll really enjoy about this competition is that because it's not as structured as the men's game, you see a lot of great tries and a lot of good skill sets because no matter what number the person's wearing, if they're in a gap, they're going to take the gap and there's going to be someone there in support. So a lot of those kind of tries in that Zingaree Waitaki game were kind of from 30, 40, 50 metres out. So again, kind of getting that opportunity and making do with it.
Because I was down in Balclutha and I watched the university game with Big River. And Fasty were very structured. And they looked good. And they kicked. which was quite surprising, and they used it as an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
And the BRC team didn't handle it in the first half, but they got better in the second half.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite surprised at how structured they were.
Yeah.
But as you said, as soon as they got a gap, they were off.
Yeah.
As soon as there was open space, they started playing footy.
Yeah.
And they played like all of us. We grew up playing footy, and we all know how to play attacking footy. I think it just comes natural to all New Zealanders. You know, doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. If you're, Islanders, it just comes natural.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing to teach players is defence.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing to teach.
Yeah.
And the defensive side of it, on the women's side that I watched on the weekend, they've got a lot to learn. And it's just a mental thing, it's not a technique thing.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing, and we all know it's how do you get up there and take space.
Yeah.
So so that was the coolest thing I've seen, and I'd have to admit that was the first game of women's rugby I've watched in a long time since my niece played. So,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it watching, and just watching the girls play, how they talk, and it is different, and it's an exciting footy to watch.
Yeah, you'll see across the different teams, each team has a different profile. So varsity, like you touched on there, quite a good kicking game with Maya Cochrane at 10. So again, it's a real point of difference around where that skill set's developed. So in the past, we've had Cherie Hume, who she can turn, and Georgia Cormack for AU, turn a game on a dime with their kicking game, and Maya's the same at varsity. So you'll just see each team has a different kind of profile when you're looking at that. And again, you come to that contact space. It might seem like there's a bit of skill set lacking, but the intent's there a lot more. Like there's some big shots that come in, and especially from some of those forward packs. There's some girls with chips on their shoulders, and they come out of the line pretty quick. And I know I try to get involved at training every now and then, and sometimes I can't sore shoulders because one of the girls gets me good or something like that. So I think there may be some intricacies there, but I think the fundamentals are really building, and I think the knowledge base across the player groups is really good. So. We are seeing a lot more system defence, whereas in the past it's kind of been man on. Yeah. But now you're seeing a lot more systems working together and a lot more preview, review.
And that's the cool thing about the way the women's game is growing. Yeah. It's only going to get better. We've got more numbers now. And I think it's exciting that we can cover it with Staples and Elevate. So we're still in the process of how do we deal with all this footage.
Yeah, there's so many clips. Well, I think the part of the problem is the clips that everyone clicks on is the tries that are scored, but there's a lot of other good things in the game, and I guess this is where if we took more philosophical, rugby's got to grow. So actually, we've got heaps of content there. How do we get it out there and package it up to the audiences? Because that is what's going to bring through the next lot of players. We've found it this year, having a development team, the messages and inquiries I've had about people that have never played before, but they've seen a clip and they go, oh, I think I can do that, or I want to do that. Yeah. And I've seen that a lot in just my coaching journey. I look at Naomi Sopawanga as a good example. She's playing in Hong Kong this weekend. Yeah, I mean, she didn't play rugby last year. She'd played basketball, turns up, plays a year rugby, all of a sudden she's played Spirit, played Matatu, now she's playing in Hong Kong, all within a kind of 12-month window. And you kind of go, I mean, how many Naomis are out there that just don't know how to get involved in rugby? And the more we can clip this stuff up and get those stories out there, that's going to help keep growing that base because... Yes, the fundamentals, we can coach the skill set, right? Yeah. But we can't coach the intuition or the natural instinct. Yes. And I think, that's where how to get this kind of content out there more so people can sign up and get part of the game.
There's a lot of really players probably out there that haven't been tapped. And everyone knows it takes a wee spark. Yeah. You've got to have that spark to, you get the grunters that grind it out and are technically perfect, and you need them in your side. Yeah. But then you need 2 or 3 that have that spark. And as you said, like the Naomis of this world who can just come in and who are just naturally gifted and talented, and then giving them a space to do what they do the best. Yeah. And that's the coolest thing. And in the environment, it's huge. Like the ladies' environment in their teams is huge, and they just love it.
And I think this is the cool space. Why it's so cool to be in this space is we've got a chance, unlike the men's game where it's very ingrained in tradition, where there's a lot more ability to have a collaborative approach and actually work together a bit more. So I think as we hopefully resource grows in the space, we might actually find we can do more things together in the off season or in the pre-season space to collectively grow the greater good, because I guess we're trying to build a pyramid from scratch, whereas in the men's game you've got a hierarchical system that's built up from schoolboys all the way through to Premier to NPC academies pathways, which is great, but it doesn't capture everyone. No. And so with the women's space, because it's a growing space, we can kind of start from scratch. So there's a lot better opportunity to kind of people to come and have a crack and actually be part of a broader process. And I think with Matt as coaching the Spirit now, we've got someone there who can actually drive those pathways and is really open-minded to, trying to get out in the community and help grow the game.
Yeah. So Knox in there as well, and I think Lee Allen's helping out.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
Because I was chatting to Lee Allen about so what's the pathway for the girls leaving high school?
Yeah.
What's the pathway? And it's like, so they leave high school when they're playing their high school football, and then they've got someone come out at 17 and talking to Dan Marshall. Yeah. They've got to get dispensations for these girls to play when they stay down here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And so, what is the pathway? It needs to grow. There needs to be more teams, so they've got somewhere. That team where they play the development grade with teams.
Development grade. Yeah.
It's probably a great space for those girls.
It's really hard though, right? Because you've got natural development and people developing at different stages, and I think that's just as prevalent in the women's space. So the school competition's got its purpose, but you're already seeing now more and more schoolgirls coming into the premier grade. Yeah. So I think Zingaree's probably got half a dozen to a dozen. We've got 3, but like I look at the 3 in my team, like they're all potential capable of making the wider Spirit squad this year. Yeah. So like they're actually already in that kind of space. So it's how we make sure we don't rush them into the systems and processes and into and let them still be free spirits, students. Yeah. School kids and actually enjoy what rugby's about. Yeah. So there's a real balancing there, and I know that like last week, for example, a couple of girls were at touch tournaments, and you want them playing all those sports because that's what school's about. So there's a really fine line of how we balance the progression of players through to Premier, to FPC, to Matatu, to Black Ferns, but also making sure that they're still able to enjoy everything else. Because again, if we look at the men's game, we see people having to specialise too early, and actually that has a negative impact when they come down to university, because actually they go, I don't want to play serious rugby anymore. No. I've played serious rugby for, the last 3 years at first 15. I've had it coached out of me. I just want to have fun with my mates. Yeah. And so how do we find that balance? And that's where the women's space, we've got a unique opportunity to make sure we do have that balance.
Because I think that they've got it wrong with the first 15 rugby. I think they've gone too professional. Yeah. Because they've got money. Yeah. And they've got the resources. Whereas clubs, when they, we don't have those resources. We've got to fight for every penny they get. Yeah. You know what it's like, trying to get funding and money to make the club run. And it's the same with the ladies. Like, I was really impressed with BRC and how all their sponsors, they've got lots of sponsors behind them. They've got a lot of support.
Yeah, they've got a great crew down there.
Great crew.
Yeah, they've got a really good... Yeah. And I think the great thing as well is the sidelines are always full. Like, there's always those passionate supporters and family members that turn up and get in behind it. And yeah, we've had a good rivalry with Big River over the last few years. Unfortunately, Dan, every time he comes up to Shark Park, goes, "Why am I coming up here?" But it is good fun, and I think you are seeing a good community in behind it. Yep. I think probably the biggest handbrake at the moment though is that depth of coaching. So a lot of us are coaching with 1 or 2 assistants, and we're already doing lots of other things as well. And so how do we build that depth of coach in the space? And I guess that's part of a broader strategic thing about how we reconnect with some former players from the FPC space and to come back and start coaching, and how we, because you talk about the first 15 ecosystem, you see some of those schools now with 5-10 coaches. Yeah. Well, actually, that's rugby's one head coach, forwards coach, batch coach back in the day, right? But now, as we move to a professional game, there's a coach for every skill set. Yeah. But actually, at Clubland, we're struggling to find coaches, and so what will inhibit or what will stunt the growth of the game will be not the players. The players are going to keep turning up, but it's actually the coach and the infrastructure around that. Yep. And it's how you make rugby fun, because everyone knows those drills you did back in the 70s and the 80s and the four corners and the hit shields. There's a time and place for that. Yeah. But actually there's so much skill involved now and so much fun that how do we make sure that we can get the right coaches and to make the right cultures to make people want to come and come back, and especially when they're transitioning from other sports. Yeah. I think William Holler's getting out and about. Yeah, through Sport Otago stuff. And William's someone, he's a great mate, and I've enjoyed his company quite a bit. Yeah. And I enjoy watching his journey. So, and that's what it is. Like, people out there, you want to coach, it's a great way to learn. Yeah. Get in and be an assistant, and it's the best thing you can ever do. Like, I know when I finished rugby as a young lad, I had 7 years off, and I hated the sport. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to come back. Yeah. But when I came back, I've just got that passion for it again. And then when I stopped playing, I went into administration, coaching,
And then, I've just absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we do.
There's a lot of reward out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and again, there's the highlights and lowlights of the week. You know what I mean? You start with your planning, and then your Tuesday training with good people don't turn up because of X, Y, Z, and then you go, do we have a team? And then Thursday comes along, and then all of a sudden everyone turns up, and you've got to make decisions around team lists. And then Saturday comes, and it's a beautiful sunny day, and you score some tries. And you go, this is all great, and then you go to Monday, and the cycle starts again, right? But I think that the space is evolving too, right? And what's expected from coaches now is a lot more around planning, preparation, and stuff like that. So, the more we share resources and have that commonality is really important.
And having that community that we've got, it's huge. And for the ladies, it's a huge thing, and I just the confidence they get from it, from being in a contact sport, you can see it. It's like they understand where the discipline comes. And having that physical contact. And I love watching the young ladies grow. Their growth, not only with their skill, but the growth outside of the sport. And same with the young men, you can see them grow as young men, and it's great. I love it.
Well, there's a really important element to team sport, right? And I think we talk about the sharks. But like, what is a shark? You know what I mean? And it is all about those values, right? And those core values around you're part of a team. You got your hand up, not out. You know what I mean? How do I contribute to a greater good? And I think. It really sets up, especially our students and everyone else, to be better humans, right? Because you're part of a team, you're thinking about others, you're compassionate, you know what I mean? You're understanding how to deal with different personalities, or you might not agree with everything, but how do you know what I mean? How do you reflect that? How do you communicate that? And I think when you got your team right, and Finchy talked about last week with culture, you get those things right, you end up with some really good natural leaders. And so... Again, all those kind of things help make better humans. And so, one of our really values in rugby should be making better New Zealanders, because actually if every club goes in with that mindset, then actually we're trying to grow and uplift the person rather than actually coach to win a banner. And I think that's a philosophy thing that, we'll build out over time, hopefully, is that instead of just coaching to win and playing to win, how do you coach and grow people to be better? And there's a different delineation between those two. You can have both, but I think there's a delineation how you deliver that.
And you can see that through what the Spartans do, and how our ex-players are giving back. I'd love to see a Spartans women's team. Playing the tens. Like the older players coming back and playing and giving back to the sport. And you're talking about that, how can ex-players come back and give to the sport? And that's through coaching and joining in and doing. But you don't have to do a lot. You just do your job. And then give back. And then, as you said, how do we grow people? How do we make them part of society? And how do we because rugby is a part of New Zealand society. It doesn't matter what you do. All sports are. And it's the biggest sport in New Zealand. So,
but you'll know this as well, being involved in a club, is that one of the hardest things is that once you stop playing, it's that transition to how do you get that person still turn up to the club rooms every week? How do you have that connection to, it becomes habit that you go Saturday night for speeches, chips at the bar, a hot dog for the kids, and then you kind of get that cycle back. And so we've got to keep evolving what that club rooms experience looks like to keep those people involved, because we know there's a natural cycle, people leave and come back with their kids in the junior space, but we don't want that dead time. And so you want to go, if I'm not playing, I'm not coaching, how do I still be involved? And that's what you're talking about with like the Spartans and these other ideas where we just think a bit differently about how we do it, and you'll find there's a new audience waiting there to be tapped into. It just takes thought leaders and people with a bit of passion to keep driving those projects, because it's pretty hard to get them off the ground.
Oh, I know. And as you can see with what we're trying to do here is get that, because one of the questions that I was asked 3 years ago, or something that was pointed out, that like grassroots rugby's dying. And I'm like, and then how do we fix it? And there was no answer. But in my head, there was like, that's why I started the YouTube channel, and that's why I started doing what I do. And I says, well, you put social media around it. And how do we do the social media? And like, I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to do this. I wanted someone else to. I tried to talk Wheels into do it. But he went to the US, and good on him for doing what he's doing. And so I was like, okay, I've got to do this. And one thing I hate doing is be in front of people. It's just my nature. Like you sitting here talking to me, I'm absolutely nervous underneath. I'm like a duck on water. The feet are going at 100 miles an hour. The brain's not really engaged enough. But I have a passion, and this is what I want to do. I want to talk about rugby. I want to bring a light on it. And I want to, especially for Dunedin and our community, and that's why I'm reaching out, talking to people, reaching out to clubs. Let's have this conversation.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Let's get the footage out there, because now we have the ability to do it.
And you'll find there is a lot of uniqueness out there too, and I think Woz is doing a really good job at the union trying to profile some of the unsung heroes out in clubland and all the hard work that they're doing. So there's that really human element.
Yeah.
And that's what people connect with, right? You can put out adverts, you can put out static images and stuff, but people connect with human stories. So how do we make sure that, you talk about, I look at some of these team lists, and I'll look at my team, for example.
Yeah, go for it.
Erin Adams, she's mid-30s, she tells me every season she's going to retire, but she still turns up and plays, because she loves it and she just knows no different, what I mean? You've got some players across all these teams. There's some girls in that Big River country team. They've played for 3 or 4 different clubs, because when Big River didn't exist, they came to town and played. The sacrifices some of these people put in, if that story gets told, that's going to find a heartstring and a home somewhere. So the storytelling is the important part, and actually how do we clip that up into bite-sized pizzas, get that out there so that that audience will react to that differently. Because that's the human nature, right? People like you and me, we've got lots to talk about. We love rugby, we breed it, but actually we're only going to attract to a certain audience, and it's the players themselves and the stories and sacrifices they make to be on the field each week is what will help grow the game.
I've got I'm getting those connections with players. I have a lot of connections with ex-players and of course Southern, but I wanted to reach out with you. And if you've got players as you're talking about just there before, get them in here, let's have a chat about these stories, and then open it up so these people out there in the rugby world can see our competition and see what we're doing here in Otago. I'd love to be Dunedin to be the place to come to play rugby, and if you put social media around it, and that's where, because we get a lot of students.
We've got a massive population base, right? And again, we've got pretty good established clubs. Every club's not perfect, but we do have a base to accommodate more. And I guess it's how we scale that, and I guess reach out to the right people and probably just think differently. Rugby's been around for a long time, but it's probably at a stage now where we've got to look at it differently. People don't want to play week in, week out all the time. We're starting competitions now in March. We're finishing some team, like the women's competition will finish in June. It's only halfway. That's not even halfway through the year.
And then what do they do after that?
So we've just got to look differently at how competition look and how things look, but also you got to look at the time and commitment. So you look at some clubs now. You're starting pre-season in November. For a competition that doesn't start till March, that finishes in August. So how do we repackage or reset some of those parameters? I look at our team last week for our game against AU. We were underdone, and we acknowledge that, because my philosophy is we're going to build through the season. Don't have to win the first game. No. We just have to be Black Ferns in June when we win the banner. That's the journey we're going to go on. But some on the other might be working for ages for that point, and their first game is such a pivotal point. So you're already kind of, competing interests, and actually you can get player burnout because they've actually been doing rugby for so long. So it's how do you keep it fresh, and I don't know the answers to it, but there is a lot of work to go into that space.
Because I always know I needed a rest. I needed a rest after I was playing. And then, but you come into the administration of it, it's, as soon as the season finishes, you started again. It's like, we've got to recruit, we've got to get out there, because every club's pushing. Everyone, even in the women's space. I'd love to see Southern have a women's team, but it
takes a lot of work.
And they're talking about volunteers.
It's a lot of time,
you've got to start now, and get the management side of it done first, and then get the recruiting done after that. So that's the hardest thing.
And like I said earlier, I think one of the key things is we don't want to be like the men's game where you're just poaching from each other.
No.
And I think that's one of the big issues we've got at the moment is that it's too easy now to pick up the phone and go, I'm going to go after Southern's best 2 players, or I'm going to promise that Dunedin Colts kid at something that I'm never going to be able to deliver on, but I'll just tell them that, and they'll go transfer another club to to achieve that unrealistic dream. So there's all that kind of stuff where I think what the great thing about the women's game is it's growing naturally, so no one's really forcing the picture. So you're seeing with a base of talent spread, and we're probably still a wee bit light in terms of Premier depth, but that depth will come with the addition of Zingaree. But if you just chuck 3 more teams in, there just isn't the player pool, so you don't want to grow too quickly. And I think the development team in that space is a good example of having those development grades where you can play 10 aside. But also then you've got Central Otago who've got, I think they've had a massive growth. I think they've got 35, 40 players. So, but again, some of those girls can't play every week. So how do we make sure we're growing? Because that Central Otago network is so big.
Yes.
But then you flip it, and you go, what's one of the issues with that? Well, it costs us now $2,000 to get a bus up to Central Otago to go play them.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah, it's
because you don't want to put barriers in, right?
Yeah. So where do you get the money from? That's the next thing.
And that's that innovation, a way of we need to change what we think, right? Because you don't want to come to the day that a club goes, actually, we can't afford to travel.
Yeah.
And even look at our competition now. We take buses to Waitaki and Big River.
Yeah.
I mean, that's $2,000.
Yeah.
Just there. And you go, well, why do you take a bus? Well, is it fair on a person to have to play? Yeah, man, and then drive. Then you've got the drinking element to it. Then you've also got the age element. Yeah, we've got a lot of young girls that don't have their own cars. They're students. Right. So there's all these kind of different factors we've got to start broadening thinking about and kind of getting solutions to before we push more rugby.
Yeah.
Because I know Wakatipu is a good example as well. Like we played pre-season against them last year.
Yeah.
They have kind of a group of there, 20, 30 girls. But how do we get into there to get their comp? They have to play in Invercargill.
Oh,
so you mean again, you've got this travel element. It means so how do we not make that a barrier? Because you'd love to see that connection across the whole province.
Yeah.
Not just a metropolitan competition, but a provincial competition. But it's just that barrier.
I've seen in the boys' Colts grade that they've got a Central Otago team.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge cost for those guys.
Yeah.
But they're obviously somehow coming up with the cost.
Yeah, they've got some good sponsorship up there.
Yeah.
And the Otago Rugby country board getting behind them quite well. But even this year, Clutha's got a senior team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so again, that's another travel element. So there's always a good and the bad that comes with the action, right? We're growing in some spaces, but it also is how do we make that sustainable?
And that was cool. That was a cool thing last weekend being down there was my old Kai B's team, the Moa team.
Yeah.
They were playing for the first time against a Clutha senior side.
Oh, wicked! Yeah.
And I don't know, 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And I was turning around watching the women's game, then I'd watch the boys play.
Yeah.
And actually a huge shout out to Rugby because the Kai B's team their kit hadn't turned up.
Oh, so they got some southern
chops.
chops.
Got some southern, so I was quite chuffed going in the changing rooms and delivering that. So
who won that game?
Kai B's won it, the Noel team won it. Yeah,
cool.
So but it was great to see Clutha had at least 30 players on the sideline.
Yeah, because they've got a Jubilee coming up 125th, is it?
Yeah,
or something like that?
Something like that. They've got a Jubilee coming up. So, and I think Crescent, got 150 coming up soon.
Yeah, right.
A few years. Jubilee. I think there's a Jubilee out at
West Torrey.
Yeah.
So there's a few of those country clubs now starting to get up. We obviously had the 150th 4 years ago now, 3 years ago now. So, those centenary things bring a lot of people out of the woodworks to come back involved, which is quite cool.
But it was cool because then as soon as the boys finished, everyone turned around and watched the women's for a while. They sort of went away in dwindles, but it was great to see the women's team and BRC get the last try.
Yeah.
So they were pretty stoked, even though it was a fairly one-sided affair. But I think the girls will grow from that.
And it's like I said, it's early doors, right? You've had a pretty disrupted pre-season, and you look at that varsity team. There's some pretty experienced players in there too.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can't read anything into pre-season, and even the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
I look at availability for this week. I think I've got 9 girls unavailable again this week.
Jesus.
So you're already testing depth. So again, we go back to the depth issue. Like, I think we used 33 players last year in our women's team. And I was just talking to the Zingari coach this week, and he's like, they've already got injuries this week, so testing on depth. So, I think Finchie said last week, GI Prem's 44 players. Dunedin, I think I did some analysis 2 years ago. I think every club, apart from Tyree, used more than 40 players in the Premier season.
I remember 2 seasons ago with JL, and we had 24 players out for the Premiers.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
It's a whole team, eh?
That's a whole team.
So you got all these depth things as well. So I'm sure that Big River will be fighting back, and I guess coming into this week as well, they'll be pretty excited, I imagine.
Yeah, and they've come on board with the analysis stuff as well.
Yeah,
and so that'll grow for them.
Yeah,
I don't know if sometimes stats don't look good. But it's something you can improve on.
I think it's really important that you've got to remember you're catering for a wide range. So you're catering for the player that wants to go to the next level.
Yeah.
But you've also got your player that just wants to train Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I know I caused a few clubs a few headaches when Dunedin straight away signed up with an Elevate. And I was going to every game knowing everyone's line-out calls because I could watch the footage and work it out. And a few clubs said, how come Dunedin get that and we don't? So there's questions asked the club committees. But I think for those players, that are looking to go up to that level, the analysis part's so important because you think about coaching points. You can only coach so much and your memory retains so much, whereas you can prove it with footage and you can start going to players, how did you think you went? Go clip up 2 things or 3 things and send it through.
Yeah.
You can actually coach their feeling as well. And so I think that's really important, especially as you're trying to grow critical skill set. I mean, you can do the drills on a Tuesday, Thursday, but actually seeing it and then going to seeing the progression too. One of the ones that we worked on last year, which was quite was real easy with the footage, was having our wingers and fullbacks on strings. So actually, it sounds really easy, right? Coaching it, but then actually to see it in a game, hey, here's how you move off the ball, and actually all the stuff you do off the ball, and footage is really great for that because everyone wants to know what's happening in the ruck. And everyone wants to know what's happening in the next phase, but actually what can you be doing off the ball to get into the right position? And you watch some of the good club players and obviously the professional players, the amount of movement they do off the ball is so big, but you can't see that on the sideline. You only see that by watching footage. So
don't see that in the numbers either.
No, you don't see that at all, and you might hear Staples in the background. So,
but again, like this, that'll be good for the big river teams to have access to that. But I guess the devil is that you can't live and breathe the footage.
No, and the other thing is, like, when you got a 15, you got to need a 15 and a 10 that work together. And so when your 15's kicking through and running through, the 10's automatically got to drop back because you're trying to put your defensive kickers in the right places. And so that was one. When I was coaching, I worked really hard on the back 4. I call back 4. Was, and you said working on strings and then working together, because I says, fullback sees the game. And it's important. And then the communication between 15 and 10 is huge. And then you got the communication between 10 and 9, and then 8, because I played 8, and I hated not knowing what the calls were for the backs, because I didn't want to run any further than I wanted to.
Exactly.
I was just lazy. I was lazy, so I was like, I'd rather be offside, running to where the breakdown is, instead of doing the big loop thing. I hated doing loops.
Fat man's tracks. I was talking about that last night in the changing season. I said, girls, we've got to start running fat man's tracks.
To be good, you run offside. McCaw was one of the best at it because he knew where to be. You're trying to
play.
Trying to predict where the breakdown was, and the call, we knew where it was going. You sort of, it's going to be there. So, you're either 5 metres either side of it. And usually what I used to do, if we had a good guy in the midfield, it'd break the first tackle and go that extra 5. You could cheat more.
Preempting where the ruck's going to be is such an important skill.
It's such an important skill. So, it's one of those things that the ladies' game, they'll grow with it. They'll grow with it, and have fun. So, it's awesome. So, we're getting there. So, one of the cool things next week coming up is the start of the Premier season. And I've forgotten who you guys are up against.
We've got Green Island, so...
that's right.
It's a pretty good round, I think. There'll be, like I said to you before, I think obviously depth's probably been tested already with the under-20s boys, a few unavailable this week. I know the Highlanders are away, so they're taking a few extra players with them. There's going to be a few tight tussles, but I know our boys are pretty itching to get out there. They've had a good pre-season against Tyree and Kike, so training last night looked like a pretty good intensity and energy there, although as Giff kind of said afterwards, you're good against nobody, so so we've got Green Island, and I think you've got Varsity v Southern, which will be a big game. I'll be over there watching that for the Is it, so because I thought trophy games are second round?
No, because they've changed the rounds around. Usually, it was at the Spates, so they used to do the Spates Shield first.
Right.
And then they go
the trophies up.
Then
first.
they go to the Galloway, but they start in the Galloway first. So you always play for your trophies on the Galloway round. So it was like the call went out I think this week. Can someone get you got to start getting into getting those trophies done.
And the logic round it was really sound, right? The logic being that last year when you had the split round up front, it created kind of a bit of a bias because you're basing off last year's results rather than actually the look and feel for this year, which I think this year we're going to have a really tight competition, right? I think Harbour especially have recruited really heavily. And so there's a bit of anxious out there to see how they're going to perform, and obviously they've got a good test this week.
Harbour's got the bye.
They
got the bye.
They got the week. They're watching everyone. I thought they had. For some reason, I thought they were playing Varsity this week, but
no, they got a bye. So for them, they're going to have another nervous wait. So
I think Pete will have them training. Don't you worry about that. But so I think it's going to be quite a tight comp, right? So I think you're going to get some pretty good First round nerves probably and a bit of uncertainty around positioning and stuff, because I think again it's quite rushed. It feels quite rushed.
Yep.
You've had obviously Rio week. You have Highlands under 20s away.
Yeah.
So you only had a couple of weeks together as a squad.
Yeah.
So how you actually
and they had that development
game on
games.
Yeah.
And that took a few people out with injuries.
Yeah.
So
But no, so it's going to be good. I think be good to get into the routine of club rugby. But yeah, I think some pretty tight games out there as well, I reckon, this weekend.
Yeah, because you've got the unknown here is Tyree with Kike. So seeing how they've developed over the season.
I think Tyree are going to be pretty strong this year. They've really had a call to arms, and there's a few boys that have come back into the fold. I know Kike's got a lot of debutants this year, so again, it'll take time for them to find their feet at Premier level. I think Finchy nailed it last week. You've got a lot of great players with pedigree, but you need those campaigners as well to kind of show them the hard knocks and actually the resilience. And so Green Island had that last year with a couple of stalwarts. I know that we're now there. We've had a few boys now that played 150 games.
Yes.
Southern's had that for a while now. So you need those experienced guys to step up when you need it. So I think Kike is probably looking for a few of those this season. So I think that Tyree team's going to be pretty strong. You have the Whanga boys in the midfield. Caleb Leaf's back. I know they've got a few boys up front that are back as well. So I think you've got Ferguson back and maybe Nick Henderson as well. So you've got some boys back up front and Fisher's back. So you've got some boys there that are pretty experienced campaigners. So that's smoky.
It'll be like you've got basically three games there that are going to be hugely tight, and like games of the round. So which game of the round for me would be you guys against GI to see where you guys are.
Return of the final. No,
it is. It's return of the final, as you said, and it's like it'll be great for Dunedin to get up there and prove a point. But as you said, you don't win it in the first game.
And I think the Vic always brings out the best of both clubs too. And I think again, varsity. You talk about off field. The boy Withy's done a great job with varsity this year. Done a lot of recruitment, really tackled into the southern space, which is where Dunedin's been playing a bit for a while. So. Really, I think you've seen a club there that's gone, we need to focus on recruitment. They've got someone who's got a good skill set, and he's been really good at growing that player base. So really, I'm really hoping for him and for the sake of the club it's paid off, and they do come out with a pretty strong Premier team this year. So like you said, you've probably got 3 match of the rounds there. The Vic will be good, and then
and then because you got Zingers playing AU, and
there's a bit of an unknown quality as well, isn't it? I think AU have been working pretty hard. I've seen them out at North Ground training quite a bit, quite early on. They've had pretty good numbers out there. It'll just be the depth will probably be their challenge. But I see last week the Colts teams all won. So there must be there's good things going on there too. So
and it's a great club. Like I always love going there. And playing in that North Ground. It's just like a wee bowl. And students all tend to turn up and stand on the sideline and watch. So it's pretty cool.
We got in trouble last year. We played two Dunedin junior Colts playing each other. We played at North Ground, and Hugh's like, "Well, hold up, why are you playing here?" I said, "Mate, because it's the best ground in town to play Friday night footy on. Because all the students here, they come down. You got good lights." So I think again, like they've got some great bases there, and I think it was good to see the Colts teams win last week. So
and you're talking about Friday night football. I want to see that happen, be put in because. Especially with Colts grades, even in the women's space, so they're not competing with the men, and then because it's about crowds, and it's about imagine we'll take AU for example. They've got Colts or the women's playing on a Friday night. Their club's open twice, and it's like with you guys, you could have Friday night football. And then your club's open twice, and you get the crowds there. Because I'd love to see it. It's probably cold too. It's a bit cold, but
I think the hardest point is that, and we talked about this a lot at the CRC level, is that you obviously need the Premier fixture to bring in 80% or 70% of your crowd, right? That brings in the main crowd. With it being a shorter season now, you only get 4 or 5 home games. And so you look at this year, we've got one of our home games is Easter. So you already lose a club rooms night that night. You look at there's an All Blacks test, so again you lose a club rooms potentially that night. So there's actually not that many opportunities to have your club rooms open to be profitable. And like we've looked at it as a club from our bar take when we host certain clubs versus other clubs, it's a massive difference. So there's a couple of rivalries we have. Our bar take will be 2 or 3 times more than playing other clubs where they don't have as big a supporter base that travel. So it's like actually from a club perspective. greedily, Friday night football sounds great, but you really want the Saturday because that's your profit days.
Yep.
And so this is, again, the competing interest of how do we be financially sustainable, but also be innovative and change the product offering because there is an appetite from the audience to watch Friday night footy.
Yeah, and the other, like when you get your social grade teams from out of town coming in, the senior teams, they tend to bring they tend to stay at the club longer with your club, and they're great. GI's good too, playing when we play them at home. The bar take goes up. They'll come in. And all these supporters come in, and it's great. And like you notice the difference, with different clubs.
No, definitely,
definitely.
And I think Easton's done a really good job with that in the 2 space over the last couple of years. Everyone loves going out there on a Friday night, paying, and there's a good crowd in there in the bar afterwards. Our seniors are actually off to Strath on Thursday night, so it'll be interesting to see how they go in the club rooms there afterwards. I imagine it might be a bit of a tired drive home after a few beers in the Strath Tyree club rooms on a Thursday night. I'll hear about that on Friday. But I think it is good that we are seeing a bit more of it. I think it's just hard, especially in the cult space, because that's where a lot of the Friday games are, but they don't naturally have the audience. Yeah. Because the audience is only going to be there if you play it at University Oval or North Ground.
That's dead right. Because
you play it at Kettle Park, no one's going to come to the club rooms.
When you go play over University, like with even our Ravens, the Ravens and stuff, the field's packed on a Thursday night. They just love it. They get out there and they just support both teams.
Well, they're all mates.
Basically students.
They're all mates,
So it's how do you tap into that as well? And it's like, maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It's you got to ask the questions, I suppose, and come up with solutions.
Well, I think that's where we're going, right? You look at the structure this year, we've probably still got one grade too many.
Yep.
And probably where we're going to go, well, I envisage us going, is kind of having 4 grades, 2 serious, 2 social, and probably that age group increasing a bit for the social space. So at the moment we're seeing more students playing in the senior grade because they don't want to play serious rugby, but they want to play with their mates. So Dunedin especially, we've had a senior team that's pretty much 4th and 5th year students. They're too old for the junior Colts grade, but they don't want to pay P2s. So how do we, how do we cater for those players? And I know the senior boys get a bit annoyed about it because they're going, we don't want to play the young kids. We sign up to play seniors to play with the kind of the over the 30s or the guys that we kick around with. So I think there's still a bit of movement in what rugby looks like going forward. And I think that social grades, we've seen great success in it. I think we've got circa 18 to 20 teams in that Champ Colts grade again, or the Div 2 Colts this year it's called. So again, there's an element of social rugby that's there. It's just that the serious side is probably where we're seeing maybe a drop off in appetite.
There definitely is because, how do you have players who have those expectations to play Prem Rugby and they don't make it, and then they don't stay with the club, and having that understanding that being in Div 2 actually helps your Premier side because you're making time. I can remember Mike Metafa coming down and playing, P2s. And that's because he just wanted to get down.
He wants to play rugby.
He wants to play rugby.
So.
And that's
gone are the days of wanting to play rugby, mate. Some of those top guys would rather play 10 minutes off the bench than do that. So I think, like I said, there's a change, and we've got to be adapting and working with the change rather than we've always done it this way. This is the way it has to be going forward.
Well, I always thought you needed your Div 2 team and your Prem team to be basically one. And then understanding that, like you go over and play Div 2 because you need time, because you're no good to anyone if you're just doing 10 minutes. In a game, because then when you have to play 80, you're not there. You're gassed, and and it's important to understand that, like for players, you are part of that team. You're part of that championship. You win because
you've all contributed to it.
Because you're helping. Say you might comes down. You're giving him time to get to play footy, so he's ready to go and win a championship. Just like you guys, you guys are helping. It's a club thing. The whole club is working to win those championships. And that's the key. We're all doing it. So, it's a great thing. It's just watching that space. We just want to grow it and have fun with it and enjoy our footy. So, and then get you guys in. So, it's really good to have you in.
No, it's good.
Cam, and you brought a shed a light on a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it. I would say, mate, the more you watch the Premier Women's space, the more you'll want to do that instead of watch men's rugby on a Saturday, mate. It's pretty exciting space, pretty attacking rugby, and a lot of talent out there. So, looking forward to seeing how the season progresses, and hopefully see you on the sidelines of a Dunedin game at some point.
No, that's when we kick, like. I'm AC, and I'll see you on the sideline. Cheers, Cam.
Cheers, mate.
And the highlights are coming after this. Cheers. Oh, that was good.